All right, thank you for joining us. It's Issues and Answers on Edo Broadcasting Service Television. My name is Josephine Aimhe. This morning we'll be looking at gender-based violence. Let me start with this. 25th of November is commemorated globally as the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women and marks the beginning of the 16 Days of Activism against gender-based violence, concluding on 10 December, the International Human Rights Day. And 10 December happens to be today. There have been efforts towards curbing or tackling the rates of gender-based violence at all levels of government. But despite these efforts, the cases keep increasing. And just yesterday, the Emir of Kano, Sanusi II, said he has told his daughters to make sure they retaliate when they were slapped by their husbands. He said 45% of cases in Sharia courts are mostly based on gender-based violence. And just yesterday or last week, or this week, hoodlums allegedly led by one rich Otakome raped a 14-year-old girl to coma in Ogara community. These are what we've been experiencing. This one we'll be looking at gender-based violence. What are the causes and recommendations towards tackling this scourge of the gender-based violence? Joining me in the conversation this morning, we have the Executive Director, Caring Hearts Initiative, and she's also a public affairs analyst, Mrs. Grace Obaikena. You're welcome, madam.
Good morning, Jim, for having me this morning. To all our viewers this morning, I want to say a very pleasant morning and happy International Human Rights Day. The climaxing of the Days of Activism, actually. So it's a great deal for us today. It is.
Okay, let me start with the Human Rights Day, and later we'll go about the 16 Days of Activism. What's the significance of this day?
Okay, the significance of this day is first and foremost standing to appreciate all human rights who have selflessly given themselves to the service of humanity, and to also create awareness to the public on the need why they need not to keep silence. They should at their various corners reach out, speak up when issues, their rights are being violated. And of course, everybody may not just be able to defend issues concerning human rights. So you have some persons who have been specialized to be human rights defenders. They have studied the Constitution. They have worked in partnership with policies to see how issues concerning human rights violation can be put to a stop. So today, apart from the fact that we're reawakening the consciousness of the society that human rights defense is a collective effort, we are also using today to celebrate those who have stood the test of time. A lot has given their peace, a lot has given their life, a lot of persons have even given their home to defending the rights of the citizens out there. They have just chosen to be the voice of those whose voice cannot be heard or heard loudly. So today is very key for us.
All right, that's a good one. Let's go back to the 16 Days of Activism. Let's hear what's the significance of these days, and today is the climax of it. So let's hear about it.
Internationally, 16 Days of Activism is a collective days put together where we celebrate so many issues as it relates to gender. Okay, just like you said when you started off, it kickstarts on the 25th of November, running through the 10th. We start with the elimination of violence against women, then we run through campaigning against discrimination and stigmatization of persons living with disabilities. Then we have World Day against World AIDS Day, where we promote activities on HIV and AIDS to victims on how they can be promoted and how they can be preserved. We do awareness on how they should adhere to their medications, because of course when they do all of this, their lives are being prolonged. Then we do a lot of advocacies, we do a lot of awareness. In fact, in those states it has been hot back to back. All over the country you see orange color flying everywhere, white color flying everywhere. You just have a tag of it. Then we also have the World AIDS Day, which is the 1st of December. Then today, the International Human Rights Day. Then we also have so many activities lined up. So instead of having them one by one, since they are all geared towards preventing violence, they are all geared towards defending the right of human. So it is jointly agreed this 16 days internationally. This year it's looking towards Benin 2030. You know, it was during the Benin some time ago that this day was actually set aside. And sincerely, it has been an en masse campaign. You know, individually as organizations, we have done our bit, and we have also come together collectively under the Ministry of Gender Issues, which is the governing body in Edo State. You see a lot of our colleagues all over the state. We've been in Zooms. All of this is geared towards what? Trying to see first how we can create awareness against gender-based violence, how we can include every other stakeholders, the male folk who from our side we see as the main perpetrators. We have not seen how we've really equipped them. You know, one of our sister organizations just recently was all about boys, the role that men and boys have to play in cutting down the issues of gender-based violence. Security agencies are part of this. Traditional rulers, we brought them in, they've given their commitment. You know, like my organization, it was more about collaborating with other organizations and giving commitment where we can hold. Like we always say, accountability does not only go to those in governance. So when you're saying for the coming year, we're going to be giving ourselves to promoting campaigns, awareness and sensitization against gender-based violence, it's not a one-off. Then another thing we'll do at a time like this is sharing of information. You know, when you talk about we have so many cases in the Sharia laws, so many cases are arising. Truth is, when we see the high rate in cases, we are not happy because these cases are happening. We are happy because we understood something has happened. Information has been shared. People now know better. A lot of people are breaking the ice. People no longer want to die in silence. So we see some persons taking the positive aspect to change, while some are running away from it because they feel it's negative, because information, everybody that is informed must have a transformed life. So when this information of gender-based violence, speaking against violence against women and girls is on the increase, this is the result you will get. A lot of responses, a lot of calls for violence will begin to come, and that tells us that our awareness is sinking. People are getting the information that they want, hence they are now knowing the right things to do.
If I ask the next question, because I want to ask, despite this advocacy sensitization, the cases keep increasing. That's my second question, but let me come to the first. What forms gender-based violence? What forms it? What are the things?
Okay, a whole lot, but summarizingly, like we always say, gender-based violence is any harm that you intentionally do to a fellow for the intention of hurt. And it's in various forms. You have it in the physical, where you have bruises, where you have beatings, where you have blows. You have this majorly most times with people in relationship. Like we always say, majority of these persons are no longer those that are even legally married. Once we have it a lot with people in relationship, then we have harassment. Harassment where you could just walk along the road and someone decide to touch any part of your body that ought not to be. This happened within the society, it happened within workspace. Then we have the emotional violence, which of course sometimes it cuts across families, schools, where you have people just want to bully their colleague because they want to demean their self-esteem, they want to shut them down from existing. You see a lot of persons, they look at people and just feel this person is not up to me, so you want to talk down this person, you want to reduce this person's self-worth, and that is what is even leading to suicide. That's one of the reasons why we say this campaign is not only about us getting women liberated, it's about us changing the orientation and the mind of our young ones. Then you also have the psychological violence, where two persons or more than families, they want to trench down on the person's strength. They get threatened by the person's growth. Like I always say, when you see your partner, your sister, your brothers, your colleagues, they are growing, it's not something you should be envious of. You could be jealous, as in you could want to be like them, ask them what's their success story, what they are doing best. Instead, people take it from the other way around. They want to be jealous, and so they want to psychologically traumatize these persons so that they no longer become productive in that area where they are being expertise. Then we have rape, of course. We have rape in children, and we also have
definement.
Now it's not rape with children, because the VAP law is trying to, because when you use the word defilement, it's like minimize the crime.
Okay.
Rape is rape. So when it happens in children, it's now rape in minor. Okay. So whether there is penetration or not, consent, the place of consent comes very handy. And throughout this period of campaign, we also let people know that people between the ages of 0 to 8 do not have right for consent. So when we're talking about the things that makes up gender-based violence, even the sexual reproductive health right, to say as a young woman, I know that the doctors have told me my health condition and I may not be able to have go for childbearing anymore considering my health. So my husband should be able to know that it's my right and he should be able to help me respect it. Why? Because of my life. So all of these things put together, they make up. So once you're right, once you are being denied the opportunity to affirm what you want to do, what you wish to do, that means you have been deprived, as in your right to execute yourself as a gender, irrespective of you being a male or a female. Because I wanted to mention now that we also have what we call sodomy, where the rape now it's not only between the man and the girl, it's now between the boys. So there's a whole lot of things that are so abominable to the ears and to the eyes to see that is going on. All inclusive are the things we call gender-based violence. Let me not forget that for everyone who has been traumatized on the issues of gender-based violence, it is always a very difficult process for them to come out, because trauma is not something you heal out of easily. So trying to build up, instead of us spending a lot of time trying to build up resilience, trying to build up people to come out as survivors, let's try all we can to prevent it from happening. That's why the campaign is on the high.
I didn't hear you talk about gender, this mutilation.
Yeah, it's part of it. You know, I'll say a whole lot. Yes,
because that one is very
where you
important.
have funny enough, very funny enough, we still have people that are very well educated that are caught up in this cultural and traditional norms. You know, another good thing about this diseative activism is that as much as we are not contending with traditional norms, we'll try to see how we can allow our traditional rulers to review. Because like I always say, our forefathers at a time needed to make laws that they felt worked for them. And so they said a lot of things, that when you do genital mutilation, it stops women from being promiscuous and all of that. It was working for them at that time, even though they were not taking into cognizance the danger it was causing. So innovations have come, science has come into place, and without just don't doubt it. A lot of persons where you see them have this genital mutilation, the women are sexually starved, and that is even what I think is leading to the high rate of promiscuity in marriages. Because when you have these women mutilated, like completely cut off, whether partial or total, you discover that they no longer have this sexual satisfaction, and that is leading to a high rate of home break today because of this section. And also we know it leads to a lot of bleeding and stillbirth during childbearing, and believe you me, this is not good for something we should begin to promote.
Let's look at the cultural perspective.
Yeah, no.
There are some areas they see some, or even religion, they agree that okay, child marriage is allowed depending on the religion. So how do you marry this, fighting this, and there's this cultural and religion perspective?
Yeah, truthfully, it's not an easy task. You know, our colleagues in some parts of the country, which I don't want to mention, when we are face to face like this, they tell us of a truth, it's not easy. And that is why, you see, for every campaign, you should be able to understand the strategy with which you embrace that campaign. And that is why today, I think for the past 2 years, it has been high awareness within the traditional and the religious rulers. The reason why we're doing all of this is if we buy them into understanding the dangers in some of these archaic religious and traditional lifestyles and principles that they were having, when they understand and become our ambassadors, it will be very easy for them to transfer this information to their followers. Believe you me, a lot of persons have respect for traditional and religious leaders, and that is why we are working with them. I have seen so many communities in this Benin where we have gone to, and you have the traditional rulers bring their men together, and we are able to talk to them. For every time we have an engagement, there is always a mind shift, and that is our successes. So that, like, I'll give you an example of this genital mutilation. You know, it's culturally believed, right? So what we'll do, we'll try to see how we can bring these traditional birth attendants, train them in a more professional way, so that as long as they are still, because whether you accept it or not, whether they're in the public view or not, they still have a way they go about it. So while we are trying to successfully see how this can be stopped, while they are doing it, let them have a modernized and a better transformed way of practicing this home delivery. You see those of them that still have this home birth and all of that. So while we are doing all of this, we are working with the traditional rulers so that for those that have it as custom and religious belief, it's not going to be an easy task if I should come in terms with you. But progressively, we are working with them, and a lot of them are buying in. We had a program recently where it was all traditional rulers and religious leaders, and they created a policy that they signed. Authorities in this religious body, authorities in these traditional bodies, they signed to it, and we are working them. We place them in the forefront. We give them a sense of ownership. Because when this is owned,
do you put money
monitor them, yeah.
Sometimes they just agree, they just want you to hear what... Okay,
that is why when we want to go into the communities, we don't get them involved when we are going for monitoring and evaluation. Okay. You know, we just go randomly, want to engage one or two. The result may not all be positive, but it can only give us a measure of the progress of what our campaign has done.
In a place where the women, for instance, you are fighting for their rights and they are not complaining, and they are telling you we are okay
and
with
they will even tell you
this is our tradition and we are okay. So in cases like what do you do when you go for such?
Information is power. Information is power. Information is power. We are not going to relent, because the more you hear this word, it needs one icebreaker to make a change. There is a word we call the power within. For these women, there are persons they listen to. Yes, that is why when we are going into communities, we don't just go into communities because we want to carry out activities. There are a lot of activities that we call general awareness, but when you want to carry out activities in communities, we identify some of the powers that are within. These powers, it needs one word, and you see all of them follows them like they've been remoted. Okay. Yeah, it's not very encouraging sometimes. You could even help them. To the extent of litigation, you will be in the court and they will tell you, I'm handing off because my community is going to see me as an actor. You don't have anything to do, you have to back down. You have spent a lot, you have given your emotions, you've given your time, and they will just tell you why. And that is why we have strategies with which we follow up cases. When you have a victim, you don't go so much about the case. First, it is the victim-centered approach. As in, what is it about the victim? First, there is what we call emotional stability. That is why we quickly retrieve them first. If it's cases that they have to be away from their home, from their community, from the relative at that point in time, we go all out to do. So when this person have been cancelled, they have been brought into the know of the process and procedures and even the time that these cases may take. Because another thing that fights against us a lot is the judicial system, where you have a whole long, sometimes you could have a case for 4 to 5 years, and that can be very, very discouraging. We thank God recently as I speak, there is a review on some of the justice procedures, yes, with which they very presently, I think I was fortunate to attend one just last week, so that we can see how we can expedite this judgment or these sittings, so that for those that will be persecuted, we know they are persecuted, we have them flash all over so that they serve as deterrents to others that are planning, and those that should be vindicated maybe because one or two things, because of course, while we are doing this campaign, we should not also forget that a lot of women are misunderstanding, are also taking advantage of it. And that is why you see at every single thing they want to create an alarm. So when we look into this issue and we discover that it is a false alarm, we also get you to be punished, because you cannot just raise an alarm because you think the law protects you. And so let me use the opportunity to announce to us that the Violence Against Person Prohibition Law, which is the most used on issues concerning gender-based, it's not protecting the women alone. It's for persons, meaning male and female. So if you are the perpetrator and you want to hide under the disguise because I am a woman, I want to do this, just know that the law will come for you. The reason why there's so much glamour is on women, because all over the world, globally, statistically, it has been shown that women are the most vulnerable on issues concerning gender-based violence.
Alright.
So that is why today, even though we have a lot of men, it seems women are overshadowing. Yes, they are. And that's why recently our approach for this advocacy is kind of shifting ground so that we can also bring the men into the picture.
Okay, all right, let me go back to my second question.
Okay.
A lot of advocacy is sensitization, and we still see the cases of gender-based violence
And the
increasing, and as if there's nothing being done. So why do we see these cases increasing, despite all the 16 days activism is not enough?
Okay, 16 days of activism is not only the period and era with which we talk on issues concerning gender-based violence. Like I mentioned, just as we have Christmas, we all know that Christmas, Jesus was not born on the 25th. It was a collective decision. And so it is for 16 days of activism. So all through the year, awareness, I remember we've come here to talk on issues like this, that is not even this type of period. It is a continuous awareness creation. And why I said I am a bit happy that the information in the public is on the increase is this. As much as we are not happy that harms are being done to young children, to young girls, to persons out there, the increase of this in the public also makes us to understand that a lot of persons are speaking up. And that is the positive impact of awareness and sensitization. But one very good problem we should identify, and to all listeners out there today, I want you to take back. We have this slogan that who here should tell who did not hear to tell who did not hear. One of the very major problems we are having is that a lot of our women have built their mind, or partners, let me use the word, built their mind, just lock up themselves that without this family, they cannot exist. They have been bamboozled to believe that because of their children, they should die in abusive relationship. And this is because of their poor financial position. And that is why another campaign we do at times like this is to see how women can break beyond the bounds of dependency to see how they can be independent financially. Because if you have a sense of financial stability, you should be able to come out of an abusive relationship and see how you can forge ahead till there is a kind of review in that relationship. As much as we do not campaign for divorce, but we strongly campaign for separation of abusive relationships that are refusing to have a correction. Truthfully, some relationships can be very toxic, that even the abuser begins to blame him or herself for every action, the abuse begins to blame him or herself for every action and violence that the abuser perpetrates on him or her. That is how bad the psyche of that victim has been caged. That is how far that person has been emotionally and psychologically deformed, that he no longer sees him or herself anywhere a bit above that relationship.
All right. We shouldn't just debate. I said, what are the causes, the increase?
Yeah.
Apart from this, what other, is it financial?
Yeah, that's what we just mentioned.
Okay.
Financial.
Okay.
You see, they are not financially dependent, so they want to remain there. And when they are not getting, instead of them to go, the fights, every money sometimes you see it's not enough. The circumstance, the economic situation in our nation today has knocked a lot of family. And in the first program I heard when one of our brothers was talking about prudent spending. When the times are changing, you also begin to change. So it's no longer cut your clothes according to your size, because you can be big and very plumpy and your material is not enough. It is now cut your clothes according to your material. So when the times are changing, families begin to review their budget, they begin to have prudent spending and a lot of tolerance and patience begin to come in, because a little word that you don't understand can just be a trigger for any form of domestic and physical violence.
What other causes apart from the economic?
Yes, psychological. You know, somebody has been depressed from outside, he's had a rough day of job. You should be able to understand your family and know that, okay, this person needs time to rest. Why family pressure? When one member of the family is carrying the whole pressure in the home, it can also increase on issues concerning gender-based violence. Then also, when you have been denied, recently there's one of our sister organizations that helped a widow who was about to be so terribly affected by this widowhood right. You know, when a man or a woman is married together and they are both contributing to get things for the home, like landed properties, build homes, and all of a sudden one of the party is being denied, this can trigger a whole lot of issues where you begin to see violence. Then of course, when we no longer check ourselves enough, we have worked so much and we have put the issue of health aside. I have a couple recently that their own violence instigated because the woman fell ill, she had a terminal disease, and the man said, I cannot go with you through this period. And he said he wanted out. Of course, the woman don't have anything to do because she was battling with her life. Trust me, that man walked out of that relationship even when that woman was in her dying bed. So sickness and all of this can also contribute.
Let's know the place of religion. We see most religion will tell you that, oh, the women, they are under you, so you must treat them like. Does it have any role to play in this matter?
The way we pass our information matters a lot. The Bible is very clear and we cannot dispute it. The Bible has said, husband, love your wife. And he has also said that wives should be submissive. As much as our campaign and awareness is on the rise, it's not giving room for the place of family. Okay, so where we have the father, we have the mother, they should be able to come together to understand what their respective roles are in the family. So because you had awareness about yourself as a woman, you shouldn't just, maybe you have a loving husband that is assisting in the house church, then you put it to him, making him to believe that these are his responsibility as a human is going to back up. So when there is an expression of love, it's reciprocated by love, humility, and sacrifice. So when counselings are going through for couples that are to get married, the Bible should be the standard and not self-practice. I think the counseling should go beyond trying to read from a manual, but having them tell what their lives can be and see how they can be guided. And counseling should not end when marriage has taken place, because most times the time for these challenges are usually when they have come together trying to infuse into themselves, because these persons are coming from different backgrounds, both religious, societal, academics. So they should be able to know that from both the Christian and the Muslim and even the Orthodox, that when couples get married, they should not be left alone, because the most serious time of their life is the first 5 years where they have to infuse into each other. And please, our religion do not in any way, we have engaged with religious leaders from all religions. There is none that have said that their religion gives rights or support to anyone to violate their partners. I want to use the word partners now because we actually have some homes who the abuser happens to be the woman, even though we don't have it as much. But we should not always put that aside when we are talking.
That's my next question.
Yeah.
You've been on the field, you've seen a lot of things. Have you seen cases where men come out to say, oh, I've been abused?
We have clients, but it's very, sometimes you have to push. You keep pushing. It is maybe during the period of counseling, because when we're doing counseling, truthfully, most times, we first engage them separately before we bring them, and you will see them cry, real cry. So I want to use this opportunity to beg our security agents, please, let's stop calling men when they come to cry out. Because I've seen situations where they say, you man, I beg go. Now you man, woman, you know they share. Please, let's stop it. These people are emotionally dying and it is not right. So when we have 100 women coming to cry for GBV and we have 2 men, for us it's a plus because they don't want to die in silence, hence they're coming out to speak. Yes, we have men who have been violated. It's just that the man nature of the African setting we are, don't allow them. But when we see them, when we engage with them, they end up spilling out. They end up crying like a baby that they should naturally be if they are not in the public trying to defend their man ego.
So for us not to lose our men, what can be done to encourage these men to
Please
come out?
speak out. Our numbers are in the public domain. If you don't want to come to the security agencies, come and meet us in the offices. We have quiet, reserved places where we can take your complaint and we will help you. We have had opportunity where women are the abusers and they pay for their crimes. Though, another thing I failed to talk about is, apart from litigation on issues of GBV, we have what we call the alternative dispute resolution. If you want, the Ministry of Justice have a complete day-to-day sitting. Most of us in the NGO space, I've said it before here, our office is not too far away. Please come. Our shoulders are here, our ears are here. And we are very, very confidential on issues that relate to you
You're
as you want it.
You're speaking for yourself, because there are some cases where some persons will go and report, and the next thing they'll find out that pages of the newspaper, some of them, they will be exposed.
That can, I want to say, please, to my colleagues that I know, that can't be done without consent. If anybody publish, yes, there are some cases that needs to be published for others to learn, but with your consent. That is why when you come to our office, the first thing you do is to sign for consent, not under duress. Do you want us to tell your story? Do you want your pictures to be? And if you say no, and please, I think when case is even still intervened on, such cases don't go out. But if it is case that needs an urgent intervention, like when we see that there is a foul play somewhere, we need the security, we need the AIG or the IG, we need the public to stand up. It becomes a human rights issue. It goes out with the consent.
The person's consent.
Of the victim, yeah, there must be consent.
If it's a child, what do you do? And the parents are like, what do you do?
No. Consent is very key. Very, very key.
Okay.
And let me also tell you today that when you share any child's picture, whether rape or anything, it's against the crime. It's against the law, sorry. It's a crime. The pictures of minors are not supposed to be out there because they have a whole lot of future ahead of them. So we cannot, even when you are on a case concerning them, their case can be mentioned without their pictures in the public.
All right, let's look at the major stakeholders when it has to do with handling GBV cases. Who are the major stakeholders in this?
GBV is very broad, like I was trying to explain.
Yes.
We didn't talk about human trafficking, we didn't talk about smuggling. All of these are embedded. So we have some organizations, like in Edo State, we have the Ministry of Gender Issues, we have the SAC Center, who a lot of persons can always go to. We have the police, which when cases like this happen, the first point of call, if you can't reach us, for us to be your voice, you reach out to the police, whom you will insist. The next point of call is the health sector, because for every case to fly, there need to be an evidence. And for there to be an evidence, the medical section, we have to check and examine the person to know, to see the harm that has been done, and to know the level of the harm that has been done. And of course, we have the judiciary. Yes, for issues that has to do with counseling, we have a professional psychologist that we always have them to talk to. Then of course we have shelters where we can also keep some where we deem it fit that they need to be secured from the immediate family.
Now let me take you to the case of rape issue. Some people, maybe after the incident, 2 days later, they will go and report. So when, for instance, there is this unfortunate incident of rape, what should happen?
To my viewers, I want to thank God for this opportunity to talk to you on issues concerning rape. When rape happens, the first thing you do is secure your evidence. Yeah. Secure your evidence. Do not wash. Yes, please do not wash. The clothing that maybe Drew struggling, has been rumpled, has been torn, please do not allow anybody take it from you. Maybe your wristwatch or your band, whatever that was with you that happened to cut. The injuries, because for every struggling, even if there are no cuts, there are twists in the skin. all of that should be snapped, okay, because these are evidence that you can use. Then immediately try to reach out to the police, reach out to the human rights, reach out to NGOs, reach out to the Edo SAC Center, reach out to people that can help you, not those that will quickly destroy your evidence. When this is done, the next thing to be done is to get, after the police agencies have reached out to you, there is an assigned medical center where you check for your health. Because beyond bruises, there is a room for HIV, there is a room for pregnancy. All of these tests will be conducted and will be repeated after a time that will be given to you by the medical team. Even hepatitis B, because for every unprotected sex that takes place, the person's life has been, the person is now exposed. So even for those that maybe very smartly will want to prepare themselves, because like I told people, for every rape, it's been premeditated. So let's not just go into that. For most times, for most rape, it is actually premeditated because the calculation of how it will be done and how it will be taken out has been done. Then there was an unfortunate case that happened where this young girl was gang raped and the guys forced her to wash up. So in cases like this, trust me, our judges are not foolish. They are not. That is why even when you have false alarm about cases, you see them judging and say this person has been acquainted. Sometimes the judges have just also read through their psyche. So when these things are done, you can still go. Because even if you have washed, there are rooms for bruises and this can also be used. And while you are giving your statement, please try not to give different statements at different times. Then also listen to your state counsels because they will be able to take you through some questions so that when you are called to the dock or where you are being interrogated, you will not be intimidated by the people that are talking with you, because it is the statement you give that will determine on how your case will push through in court.
All right, thank you so much. We're looking at gender-based violence. The next question I want to ask is this. So persons believe that most of these ladies, they tempt them, the way they dress, and they will tell you that she tempted me, she was just exposed.
I know we're coming to this.
I don't know what to do, and she was at the first time she was giving me a consent only for her to just tell me to stop. So when is the right time to say, oh, this is rape and this is not rape?
The right time to stop, even when your pants is down, is when she says stop. You know, there was a time our campaign was her no is no. You know, some people will say in Nigeria or in Africa, when a woman says no, it means yes. Sir, an NO is an NO. It has nothing to do with an YES. So when a woman walks into your room by any means, you know, sometimes some persons can easily be cajoled. You know, they are talking on the phone. They've seen a lot of things, especially with this social media stuff. You're talking and it's exciting as it can be. And all of a sudden you get into the terrain and your body says, I am no longer pushing for this. Please, when she says no, let it be no. Sorry to say, I always make instances. There is a case from Ekoma, the guy is serving right now. They were actually dating. They had an issue and they made up. So, as a makeup package, they went to the young guy's room and fondly went on and on. And when penetration was about taking place, she said, sorry, we just made up. I am yet to know if this will push through. And she was like, and the guy was like, what? After you are done, after what? And he went ahead and raped this girl. Believe you me, this case happened 2022. He's serving a 14-year jail term because she said no. You know, the word no is very difficult for a lot of persons to take with so many excuses. Your body belongs to you. You choose what you want to do with it at that particular point in time. And that time you said no. So let me come to the issue of this moral topic that people always try to want to reduce the harm in GBV. When we are talking about issues of GBV and the issues of dressing comes up, sometimes I see it as a disguise. The moral topic of dressing remains a moral topic where even the society today has gone haywire. Because it is not only the young persons that are dressing inappropriately today. We have the men coming out with trousers almost at their knee level, their boxer at the end of their buttocks. And the funniest part is you see so much dirty and irritating boxers flowing with so much black linings, and nobody sees this as an improper dressing. So when you see our young girls today emulating what even the married women are doing, that should not be a yardstick for you to rape. I would always say rape only defines your inability to control yourself. And that is why we have a whole lot of commercial sex workers today that are proudly doing what they are doing. So if you feel your urge is so strong and you need a karma, please engage. Go negotiate and get yourself satisfied. Do not take your urge on innocent persons whose consent is not given. And the worst part is when they now leave their sex, their age, their mates, and try to count on the innocence of young children. These children are still growing, they are still developing. You say after all, she's all busty. She's 13, she's 15. For God's sake, she's developing. What is your problem with the ripeness of her breasts? What is your problem on how her buttocks is sized? God has given you your era. You grew through puberty to get to the stage where you are today. Why would you want to take on an innocent child's mind that you know of a truth? By the time you are able to talk to, he or she will be deceived. Because why? She is still a child. So you take your urge somewhere where you can negotiate. Real men don't rape. Men that are not real, men that are frustrated, men that have low self-esteem, they are the ones that rape. So when you have issues with your emotions, you're running out of your marriages, you're having issues, please go and negotiate for sex and stop taking your frustration upon our young girls and our young boys. So for those who are dressing immorally, please let's address it as a moral problem, as a social problem, and not marry it with sexual gender-based violence. So I will still use this opportunity to appeal to our young girls, because irrespective of how much we say on the defensive, men will always tell you of how aroused they are. Please, the role of consent is very, very key. And don't expect an under 18 to give you consent, please.
All right, let's look at the GBV. Does GBV has anything to do with the VAP law? Is there a correlation?
The VAP law, the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law, it's, let me say, a law that was carved out specifically to govern issues of GBV. You know, for the human right, for the human trafficking, trafficking in persons and irregular migration, there is a law governing that. Okay. So if you check the issues of GBV under the laws before now, were so slightly mentioned. The penalties were so slim. They were not stiff. There was something like, after all, this is what I can do and pay 200,000. Why wouldn't I? So when you hear under the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law that you could go for life imprisonment for raping, I am sure for a 30-year-old man, he will not want to. You know, when you hear even for a minor that you can go for 14-year jail term, take 14 years out of your life, you will discover that your mates have gone past you a lot. So we are saying that a lot of cases have strived and won, even in Edo State, with the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law. And that is why we also have the register, where we advise people to assess. So that those are the people you should be flagging on your social media and naming and shaming them. So that the world will see the kind of persons that they are, and it will serve as deterrent. So the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law has been simplified. In fact, some of our sister organizations, we came together, spearheaded by one, and they took it down to Pidgin. They made it as a record. Just last week, we had a meeting with transport owners, and transport line owners, not the drivers as it were, to see how we can begin to carry these campaigns even to the bus stops, because you see a whole lot of nonsense the drivers, the conductors, they do out there. So we want to see how we can be using some of them as deterrent to reach out.
Where can one get this register? This naming and shaming. How can one access it?
I think the Ministry of Justice, the Ministry of Social Development, which we have appealed to them to make this copy available. It should be everywhere. It should be everywhere. Yeah, they have done a lot, I won't lie, but we want it to be in the lips of every person in Edo State. So the Ministry of Justice, I'm certain, the Ministry of Social Development, the gender desk for the state CID, so a whole lot. So maybe when next we're coming, we will try to get the simplified version for EBS so that we can present to them. They can also use it once in a time for their
Thank you
programs.
so much. A lot of persons are still complaining, talking about the processes of getting justice is cumbersome, and most persons just let it slide. So let's look at the processes. Do you think it can be anything can be done so that it can be speedy in order to one can get justice?
Like I mentioned last week, a review is ongoing. Just like you mentioned, even aside the victims getting tired, it can be very strength draining for even those of us that are advocates and defenders. So we have written, we have appealed, we have been in forums with the justice sector, and a lot is ongoing. We only beg that they should expedite it. When political judgment cases are up, it can weeks and weeks, it's gone and done. So we want it. Courts have been set aside for issues for gender. We want more courts to come up. Let them segregate small courts for issues concerning gender-based violence and rape, so that we can be having justice. Yes, it can be very, in fact, a lot of them after a year, they will just tell you, but for us, justice sometimes is not secluded to when this person is there. Justice is when you are able to come out of this case, get your life back, be restated into the society, your self-worth, you have it, and you are able to further ahead as a strong, resilient survivor.
Okay, let's look at the area of recommendation. What do you think the government can do? Religious leaders, political, what can be done to
religious leaders? Please hit the nail on the head. Violence is violence. Let's stop twisting the Bible to cover these perpetrators. Let's use our pulpits to pass this message to our audience, to our government agencies. We beg that the issues concerning GBV takes a whole lot of time, and because of this, people no longer have trust in it. So when you see a family that is heavy on domestic violence, they say, after all, when the husband is in detention, who's going to take care of the wife, who's going to take care of the children, and these persons are not financially buoyant, let there be alternative support care for these persons, so that when they are crying for justice, they will also know that there is a socio-economic empowerment package set aside for them.
All right, you didn't talk about, did I hear government?
Yes, I said they should expedite, they should work on the policies. It is the government that will prepare the socio-economic packages, so that when violators are there, their family will be well taken care of.
Word for parents, to the parents.
Parents, please, I want to beg you. You also contribute in abusing children when you use vague words. You are the first instrument to build the self-confidence of your words. Please go ahead and do this. And for every home, you have different measures with which your home work. Don't use the way Mr. A family is working to work in your own home. If not, there's going to be continuous chaos. And to that home that is going through violence, there is a way out: mediation. Come, let us help you mediate with this issue, and you will discover.
Free of charge?
Our works are pro bono.
Oh,
please,
that's lovely.
Our works are pro bono.
You just need to report.
Yes,
and
our works are pro bono. So please, there's room for dispute resolution. Most times it could just be a slim misunderstanding that is causing this issue, and when you seek professional experts, they will be able to help you melt down this misunderstanding.
Thank you so much. We've been looking at gender-based violence, and with me in the studio we have the Executive Director, Carrying Out Initiative, and a Public Affairs Analyst,
Grace.
Oh my God! All right, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. It was robust. It was intense, And thank you so much. We'll be looking forward to seeing you again
More
on
time.
this program. Many thanks to all of us in the studio that made this program a success. To my producer, thank you so much, and to the man behind the camera, so many thanks to all of you. My name is Josephine Ehimihi. Do have a productive day ahead, and please stay safe. Avoid violence.
Yeah.